Excuse me, ma'am.
Ah, yes, tell me.
Ma'am, what is competition or inhibition, ma'am? That term?
Competition.
Yes, ma'am. That term was there in the neural network diagram in the PPT. Like in
Okay,
the final view,
competition
that's
it was written.
co- I don't know if I got it wrong, but inhibition or
Inhibit.
inhibition was written. Like
Okay,
there was a
inhibition.
connection between the final output nodes, and it was written as
Yeah, actually
competition.
the one, yeah, one neuron when it get activated, okay. So if it has enough strength, then it will activate the next neuron. Sometimes the next neuron there it will stop because sometimes if it not having enough strength means it will stop there. Okay, so it won't allow the that flow of that is whatever the input it is being passed. So it won't allow the neuron will won't allow it to pass to the next neuron. So it will stop over there at that particular point. So sometimes it will get activated and that neurons will get wired together and it will pass that whatever the signals it will pass to the next neuron. But certain cases it won't have enough strength, so it will when it reaches a particular neuron it will stop over there. So that I think it would have been explained there, I think.
But there was a like arrow, like the feedback and feed forward diagram was there in the PPT. So in one of the diagrams, the
Huh.
final output nodes, there were multiple there was two output nodes, and there was a connection between both the output nodes of the final layer. So
Okay,
and
can which one? Yesterday's slide only. Shall
yes,
I share?
yesterday's slide only.
Okay. I think yeah. One second. Yeah, whether this diagram you're telling.
Yes, ma'am. In this diagram, the last.
Okay. Here the diagram. Okay, competition or inhibition. It is given. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think this is like maybe multiple predictions when it happens. So maybe like you are predicting multiple grades, you just consider A grade, B grade, okay, like that. So maybe based on maybe when you apply in the last layer basically for the classification, so maybe based on some values it will be assigning maybe probability. Maybe if the person who belongs to maybe he can fall into A grade, maybe it is having a 70 percentage probability. For other grades maybe 20 percentage, 10 percentage, so like that. So the output, so among the outputs based on that weights and inputs whatever it is receiving, so based on the classification is happening. So maybe based on that in the figure I think it would have been marked that one output when you get it, if it is predicting is as A grade, it is inhibiting the other things, it is stopping the other classification. So maybe in that way it would have been projected, I feel, in that
Oh,
figure. Okay.
okay.
So multiple classification A, B, C, D grade I have means maybe A will get some value 0.5, the other one will get 0.3, 0.2, then 0.9. So which among that is more? 0.9 means okay, we will predict okay he got that particular grade. So among that, so which is having higher probability that will get predicted. In the final layer only mostly the classification comes. You got it. So maybe based on that, it has been marked. So I'll check once again. So based on that, it has been marked. I think competition inhibition. It is trying to stop that, right? So previously, when I explained that biological neurons, that inhibition term was used. There it was telling that one neuron it inhibits means the if it's not having enough strength, it inhibits there. It stops there. It won't pass to the next neuron. Okay, so in that way it has given. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Hope everyone reached around 95 students. Okay. So I started recording. Okay. Okay. So yesterday we just started with the. Hope you can see the screen. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we started with the artificial neurons. Okay, so how that the weights and the inputs it will get multiplied, and finally the summation means it can be finding the sum or minimum or maximum or average or any or and any function can be used for the summation. Mostly we use a sum. Then after that from each node, it apply the activation function, the transfer functions will be applied. There are various transfer or activation functions, and it gets the output. So this output, it will be passed to the next neuron or next node in the next layer, it will be passed. Okay, so if we have only the input and output layers, then we call it as a single neural network. Okay, and if we have a hidden layer, then we call it as a multi-layer neural network. Okay, and the number of hidden layers, when it increases, we call it as a deep neural networks. Okay, so then we discussed about different kinds of networks, that is feed forward networks and the networks with feedback. So in that feed forward, single layer and multi-layer, that only just now I told you what is single layer. It has inputs and outputs. Output node, you can see in certain cases in the diagram, there will be only one node. So one node means maybe it may have doing the binary classification based on some threshold value. If you can see multiple nodes, maybe it will have multiple classification. So any among this one, y1, y2, y3, maybe it will predict as y2, okay, based on how much strength it is getting, that is input, weights, everything. So based on any of this can be predicted. Okay, so that is feed forward, single layer. Multi-layer means other than the input and output layers, we may have multiple hidden layers. Okay, so then yeah, here I think this term yesterday I didn't tell, that is weights. Okay, when the weight matrix or the weights, when we assign the weights which is assigned between the input layer and the hidden layer, it's called as the input hidden layer weights. And the weights between the hidden layer and the output layer, it's called as a hidden output layer weights. Okay, so then we have the with feedback. So with feedback, again, it's divided into three. Single node. So single node means to that same node, it's getting the feedback, and single layer to the entire layer, it's giving the feedback, and to the multiple layers, if it's given, means multi-layer recurrent recurrent networks, we call it. Okay, then different types of neural networks learning algorithms, supervised, unsupervised. Mainly it's classified into supervised, unsupervised, and reinforced learning. Okay, so the other, that is Hebbian networks, all that things you will be doing it, you will do the problems, back propagation, all that things you will be learning. Okay, so maybe next class and all, you will be doing the problems on based on that. So supervised learning means we supply the input plus what can be the output. So the class or the label also we will be provided with the inputs, and we give the training. So when we get the data, a portion of the data will be used for training and a portion of the data. So usually around 70 to 75% of the data we will use for training, and the remaining 25 or 20% data or 30% data we use for testing. So testing means whatever the trained data, are we achieving that the correct prediction, are we achieving or not? So that need to be tested. So for the testing, some data we will keep it for the testing. And the iteration or the epochs is like we will be selecting the weights randomly, and each time it checks whether it's achieving the target or whether it's how much it's deviating from the target. So based on that, each time the weights will get updated. So like that, it has to do several iterations should be performed. So several times the weight need to be updated. Okay, so that's called as the iterations or epochs. Okay, so now when the weight updation stop, or if we achieve the accuracy what we wanted, so in that case we call it as a converging. Okay, so if it converges, when it converges, the weight updation will stop. Okay, so that time we will freeze the number of layers and whatever the weights, okay, all that things we will freeze, because it is achieving the accuracy what we were expecting, or it's reaching the correct target. So in that case we can freeze that one with the current weights and number of layers whatever we used, and the number of iterations or epochs whatever we use, with that we can freeze it. Okay, and the certain problems with the supervised learning we discuss, that is sometimes it won't learn. Why? Because the input what we given, it may not be matching with the output, or if we don't have enough data, or sometimes we give more training so that instead of learning it will try to memorize. Okay, so in all these cases the supervised algorithm won't perform better. Okay, then we discuss about the unsupervised. So unsupervised means here we are not giving the output, we are just giving the input alone. So based on the input, the same kind of patterns it will be observed, and it will try to do the grouping. Okay, so if we ask for 2 groupings means based on the patterns it will make 2 groups, or 3 clusters we ask means based on that. So we have several clustering algorithms and all. So next one we learn about the reinforcement learning. So in the reinforcement learning, what all things we discuss, that is where the reinforcement learning mainly used is in the case of the gaming, develop the gaming software, or maybe for the robotic path navigations. In that case, we cannot use supervised learning. Why? Because there are more cases, that is maybe in the when you consider a game. Okay, maybe if this is a situation, okay, how to make a move, maybe in the chess or whatever it is. So if this is a situation, how to make the next move, what will be the next move. So like that many situations are there, so it is difficult to give the training with all that possibility. So this is the case, okay, you should make this move, or this is a case, so like that many cases will occur. So instead of giving a prior label and giving the training, instead of that, the system itself, it can play and learn, it can explore and learn. So it's a kind of trial and error method, and it is here we are not giving the label, but instead of that we give some positive or negative reward. So if we are following correctly means it gives a positive reward, so that it can understand that okay, whatever we done, it's correct. So again it will be learning. So in the robotic path navigation also, if it selects a wrong path, negative rewards it will be getting, so that it can understand, so whatever the path selected is wrong, so that it can explore the next path. So if it's getting the positive reward, the whatever path selected is correct, so it can go through that particular path. So that's a reinforcement learning. It's mostly trial and error method. So yeah, so I think up till this we had discussed, I think. Yeah, so no, we discussed about the weights also, right? Yeah. So next is we started about the important terminologies in artificial neural networks, like weights, bias, threshold, okay, learning rate, momentum factor, vigilance parameter. So like that we have many factors. So weights, yesterday we discussed. So weights, it's an important factor to determine the strength, okay, of the input. So maybe certain inputs it have more, it has like a more importance in predicting the output, but certain inputs, input means certain features, it may not have that much importance in predicting the output. So whichever input is having more importance, for that the weight can be given as more, and whichever features it's not having much importance, so the weight can be less. So that later when I try to learn, so that is, it is trying to understand the features, okay, these features are having more importance. Maybe initially randomly, though we are assigning randomly, later when it move from each layer, it will try to understand, okay, these features are having more importance in predicting the output. So the weight should be adjusted more. So weight adjustment will happen more to that one. So more weightage should be given to that particular input. So how we represent the weights, yesterday we discussed, okay, the weight matrix. So in the weight matrix, I told you how to write the weight matrix, how to represent that one. So the number of rows, when you write the weight matrix, the number of rows must be equal to the number of neurons in the previous layer, and the number of columns, it should match with the number of neurons in the next layer. So you should remember the weight matrix, because while solving the problems and all, sometimes only the weight matrix will be given. Okay, it wouldn't have marked in the diagram. So from the weight matrix, you should understand where that in the diagram, in the corresponding diagram, where that weight comes. Okay, so that you should understand. Otherwise, the multiplication, everything will go wrong. Okay. So next about the activation functions. Okay, so the activation functions in detail we are studying in the next slide. Okay, so already I told you what is activation function. There are two kinds of activation functions, linear and non-linear activation functions. This activation function, it decides, okay, or it is mapping from the input to the output. Okay, how each input, whether it has enough strength or not. So can it be passed to the next neuron? Okay, so all that things will be decided in the activation function. So we will be studying now in detail about the activation functions. Okay, so next one is bias. So bias is, it's like an, you know that in the line equation, y is equal to mx plus c. So what is the role of that c? Can you tell me? Y is equal to mx. Only if we have the line equation as y is equal to mx, what happens to the lines? Tell me.
It will pass through the origin.
Always it passed through the origin. So what is the role of c? How much it is far from the origin. So okay, maybe based on the C value, sometimes it will go to the positive to go up, or sometimes the line will move down. Okay, so the same way bias is like we can tell that it's a kind of like C in that line equation. Okay, so this helps to model that that is whether the activation function, based on the activation function, maybe if you are classifying okay, the whether the person is having disease or not having disease. So to increase the net output, okay, this helps to increase the net output. So to make the convergence easy, that is the weight updation, it should stop somewhere. So the weight updation should stop, and for all that purpose we will be using an extra weight. Okay, that is called as a bias. You can see in this diagram, other than this x1, x2, x3, we are using another extra weight or extra input, we can tell. Okay, so this helps you to converge, and it increases the net input or decrease the net input based on its value. So if it's a positive bias, means it increase the net input. It's a negative bias, means it decrease the net input. So it allows the activation function to make a better prediction, to move to this particular class or to move to the other class. Okay, so better predictions it will be possible with the help of bias also. So all these factors it is introduced, that is other than the weight, bias, momentum, learning rate, like that many factors are there in the neural network. So all these things it helps to converge at a particular point. That is finally the weight updation should stop, and it should achieve the correct accuracy, and it should predict correctly the target value. It should predict correctly. So the bias is one of the factor which increase or decrease the net input. Okay, and it will be always, we will be adding that with the other than the input into weight. When we multiply and add, with that always we add this particular value bias, and its value also it is randomly. Sometimes we'll give the value as 1, bias value as 1, and sometimes we may give different values. Okay, so when you solve the problems, you will understand what is the role of bias properly. So always we will be giving some value for the bias also, other than x1 into w1 plus x2 into w2 plus x3 into w3, etc. up to xn into wn, plus bias also will come into that summation. Okay. Okay, so next is threshold. Actually, it's an activation function. So it is one of the activation function only, threshold. So threshold, it decides that, okay, based on a threshold value, okay, if above this particular threshold, it should be predicted as 1, or below this particular threshold, it should be predicted as the other class. Okay, so maybe the prediction, we will assign the value 1 minus 1 or 1 0. Okay, it can be any way. So it depends on binary threshold function or bipolar threshold function. Binary threshold means two classification, 0 and 1. So above this particular threshold, classify as 1. Below this threshold means 0. So 1 and 0, what it indicates, it's predicting some classes. So 1 means it belongs to this particular class. Maybe the student will pass. 0 means the student will fail. So like that, two classifications. Okay. So next one is learning rate. So learning rate also, other than bias and weight, okay, we also introduce one factor called as learning rate. So this also have importance in converging. Okay, the values should get converged. So again, the how the neural network convert, it depends on the complexity, the network complexity, size, then the architecture. Okay, all that things, it has importance in converging. Okay, so this learning rate usually we select as a value, it's a positive value between 0 and 1. Okay, so if the value of the learning rate, if it increases, what happens is sometimes the weight updation won't happen properly, and the network may oscillate. Sometimes you need the prediction, the target value, if it is given as something like, for some classification, if it's given some particular value, okay, it need to predict 10, but maybe it's predicting as 15 sometimes, or if it's predicting as less value, 5. So it is like it's not reaching the target. It may be more than the target or less than the target. So it is not reaching the correct target. It may oscillate. If you give the learning rate higher value, if you give a higher value for the learning rate, what happens is the network may oscillate without making a correct prediction. It may oscillate. And if we give very less value, in that case, what happens is the learning becomes very slow, and the convergence, achieving the convergence becomes very slow, and it becomes difficult. So an appropriate value is selected for the learning rate, that is between 0 and 1. Okay. So it is denoted as alpha. Okay. And mostly we give the value between 0 and 1. So when you do the problems, you will understand. So this, other than this X1, W1, we have the factor bias, and we have the factor learning rate. So initially, the initial neural networks, they may not have this learning rate, but slowly, okay, they understood, okay, what all factors can make the convergence easier. So based on that, each factors has been introduced, which helps to converge faster. Okay. So one of the factors learning rate, the other one is momentum and vigilance. Okay. So in some of the networks, like the first network, that is MP neuron, Hebb networks, in that and all, sometimes we may not be using all these parameters, but slowly when the neural network evolved, okay, some of these factors has been introduced for the easier convergence. Okay. So momentum factor also, it is used for convergence. Then vigilance parameter also represented as rho. It is also we are giving the value between 0.7 to 1. Okay. So all these things where it is used, when you learn the problems in the next class, you will understand for which all neural networks we are using learning rate, momentum factor, when you need to use the vigilance parameter, all that things you will understand. Okay. So I'll stop the slide here. So the remaining things, this is just a notation. The remaining, the networks, all that things, Suja ma'am will teach that MP neuron, then what is linear separability, Hebb networks, all that things ma'am will be showing with the help of the problem. So you will be doing the problem and you will try to understand. Okay. So next class, you will ma'am will do that one. So I'll just now go to the activation function. I'll try to finish the activation function. What are the different activation functions? Okay. So hope you are able to follow this. Any doubts means you can ask. Are you able to follow? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so I will go to the activation functions, the linear and non-linear models. Okay, so in our activation function, so what is the use of activation function? Already we discussed. So it is also called as transfer function. So it is a mapping between the input and output. So each node in the neural network, okay, it has a summation of the inputs plus bias, and after that, before deciding the correct output, the activation function will be applied, and based on the activation function, the output will be generated, and that will be given as the input to the next node or next neuron. It will be given as the input to the next neuron. So then again, that neuron, okay, it is again accepting these things, and again it find the summation, and after that again that will apply the activation function. So it is similar to the biological neuron, where I told you dendrites gets the input, okay, and if it has the enough strength, who is deciding that is the enough strength, that only here we had made it as an activation function. Okay, so enough strength if it has, it will go and activate the next neuron. The same way here, the activation function, based on the activation function, we decide that whether it can go to the next neuron or not. Okay. So different activation functions we have. So here it has given that resulting value. So mostly in the binary classification, we use a threshold, and above the threshold means it predicts as one class, and below the threshold means it predicts as another class. Oh, so we have binary threshold functions and bipolar threshold functions. So we will look at all that things. So mainly it's classified into linear and non-linear activation functions. Okay. So linear activation function means mostly what is the input. Okay. Same thing will be predicted as the output. That's a linear. So you know that linear function. Okay. So yeah, I'll just go to that one. Okay. So, and when we look at the activation functions, one important feature is the activation function should be differentiable. So when you do the back propagation and all, okay, how much the output is depending on the input, and the output, how much, the how much the output is deviating from the target. So based on that, the weight should get updated. So for all that things, the function, the activation function, what we are applying, it should be differentiable. So in linear function, you know that maybe like it's in the form of mx. So when you differentiate, we will get only the constant value. Okay, so what happens is it's not depending on a particular parameter. So when you differentiate, you will get a constant value, so that when we do the back propagation, when you do the problems, you will understand clearly. So when you do the back propagation, we will use the differential, we will differentiate that activation function, and we will use it. Okay, so for updating the weights and all, we will be using that. So that time, the activation function, if it is differentiable, only then we can use that activation function in the case of back propagation and all. And for the multi-layer neural networks and all, with the linear function, it's difficult to predict the output and all. So mostly we use the non-linear functions in the case of back propagation and all. Okay, so this yeah, so the same thing, it's explained here. The linear function, it has less power, okay, for mapping the input data to the output data. And if you are not applying any correct activation function, it behaves like a linear regression model itself. Okay, so it won't give a better prediction if you are not properly selecting the activation functions. And you know that the data you can see in this image. So when we need the linear classification, you can see that if the data is correctly, we can separate it. If it is linearly separable, then maybe when we apply the linear functions, it will be able to separate that data. But you see in this case, you can see that data, it's not linearly separable. Okay, you can see here the red dot, which belongs to the other class. So with this line, we are not able to separate it properly. So instead of linear, if it having a curve, if we have a curve, so in that case we can separate that data properly. Okay, we can do a better classification. So in this case, if the data is like this, you don't have any problem. So you studied linear regression, what you're doing, that you are trying to fit a line with that points. And again, logistic regression you studied. So here, this is, if the data is like this, then it is linearly separable. With the linear function, you will be able to do a better classification or better prediction. But if the data is not, you can see in this case, the data, it is linearly inseparable. Okay, so in this case, with linear equation, we may not be able to separate that data correctly. So you can see here, with the curve means we can separate that data easily. Okay. Okay, and other than that, mostly when we apply that deep neural networks, when we use it, we have the data as a kind of images, videos, and audio signals or speech signals. Okay, all that things we will be having. So when we have the complex data, so mostly we go with the non-linear activation functions. Okay, for the better predictions and classifications. So which are the activation functions? So we have mainly the linear function or the identity function we have, then binary step function, bipolar step function, then some sigmoid functions and ramp functions we have. Okay, so we will look at these functions. Other than this, again, some more activation functions we will discuss now. So what is identity function or linear or identity activation function? So in the case of identity function, so whatever may be before applying the activation function, so what is your output? The same output. Suppose you are getting it as 5 means the same after applying the linear activation function or identity function, you will get the same thing. Okay, so that is the linear or identity activation function. So you can see, look at here, 0 means 0 itself. And if you get 2, okay, before activation function, you're getting 2. When you apply the activation function, if the activation function is linear or the identity, then you will get the same thing. -6 means -6. That is, same value will be passed to the next neuron. Okay. So -6, same -6, -4, -4 itself. So that's a linear activation function. Okay. So what is non-linear activation functions? Yeah, before that, one more thing, binary step function. What is this binary step function and bipolar step function? So this is based on a particular threshold. For mostly for the binary classifications, we use binary step function and bipolar step functions. Binary step function means if it is above threshold value, greater than or equal to the threshold value, it predicts as one class. Okay, if it's less than the particular threshold, it predicts as another class. So that how the class prediction of the classes, it is indicated as 1 and 0. Okay, so 1 means it's predicting a particular class, 0 means it's predicting as another class. Okay, so that's a binary step function. Okay, so it takes it's a function that takes a binary value and is used as a binary classifier. Okay, so it is preferred in the output layer. It's preferred in the output layer means mostly the classification happens in the output layer. Okay, so you can see when finally when we discuss, okay, which activation function is used in the hidden layers and which activation function is used in the outer layer, so that all that things you will understand. In the outer layer, what we need mainly the classification, it happens in the output layer. So mostly if it's a binary classification, and in the output layer mostly we will use this binary step functions. It's not recommended in the hidden layers. Okay, because I told you mostly in the hidden layers and for the back propagation, for all that purposes, we need the non-linear activation functions which should be differentiable. So this is another activation function, bipolar. It's same like binary. Only thing is instead of 1 and 0, we are just representing it as 1 and -1. Okay. So when you do the problems also, consider the activation function as bipolar or binary step function or bipolar step function. If it's given means based on that, you can see the value 1 or -1 should be given, or 0 or 1 should be given. Okay. It's nothing. 0, 1 means it's two classification. 1, -1 means it's based on that, it's two classification, that's all. Okay, so based on the threshold value, above the threshold it's classified as 1, below the threshold it's classified as -1. Okay, so the ramp function, you can see here 3 classifications. If it's above 1, it's classified as 1. Between 0 and 1, it's classified as X, and less than 0, it's classified as 0. Okay, so this is a ramp function. Okay, so this is about the non-linear activation functions. I told you linear activation functions, that's not differentiable, and sometimes that will be always increasing or decreasing. So this non-linear activation functions, always it will be differentiable and it will be monotonic. That is, either it's non-increasing or non-decreasing. You can see here non-linear, it's kind of a curve. Okay, so here in this case it's increasing. In this curve you can see initially it's increasing, then it's decreasing. But linear means you know that either it will be increasing or decreasing. Okay, this is non-increasing, non-decreasing, so that's called as a monotonic function. So mostly we select monotonic functions and the functions which are differentiable for activation functions in the hidden layers and all. Okay, because the data, okay, the data what we get, it may not be linearly separable, and it will be complex data. We will be having complex data. Okay, so based on that we need to do the better prediction. So and we need to consider the feedback also. So for all that things, the functions what we select, that should be differentiable, that should be monotonic function. So most probably we'll select this non-linear activation functions in the hidden layers. So which are the non-linear activation functions? So we will discuss now which are the non-linear activation function. So one is sigmoid activation function. So you would have studied in logistic regression what is sigmoid function. So it's a kind of S-shaped curve that you know, and how the values getting mapped, it will be mapped always between 0 and 1. So you can see in this graph. Okay, so the y value, where it comes, it's between 0 and 1. Okay, so the negative values, maybe you can see here in the graph, -6. it's mapped to 0. -4, okay, it's mapped to 0. So -2, it's mapped to maybe something like a small value, maybe 0.1 or something like that. So 0, it's mapped to 0.5. So then between, so 1 means maybe somewhat 0.6 or something like that, it's marked. So whatever the value you're getting, everything, it will be, you can have the values from -infinity to infinity. But when you apply the sigmoid activation function, whatever the input which is coming in the range -infinity to infinity, it will be mapped, it will be compressed to the range 0 to 1. And again, based on that value, you can do the classification. Maybe if it is above 0.5, predict it as this particular 0.65. Okay, it belongs to this class. Okay, so maybe you just consider that can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Because suddenly I got a message, bad network, so I thought I got exited. Okay, so if anything happens, you please tell me. Okay, otherwise without knowing I'll be teaching. Okay, but if I exit means someone please send me a message in mobile. Okay. Okay, so now yeah, here, so this yeah, if it's predicting above, that is 0.65, if it's giving us 0.65, then what happens is, it is in terms of probability. Okay, 65% chance that, okay, it may be cancerous, or how, maybe 35 means 35% chance it is cancerous. So 35% chance means it belongs to the other class. Okay. So the sigmoid activation function, you know that it is 1 by 1 plus e power minus x. Okay, so it's a S-shaped curve, but this has certain advantages and disadvantages. So what are the advantages? We will look at the advantages. That is, the curve, it is a smooth gradient, and the values always, it comes between 0 and 1. Though you have the inputs from -infinity to infinity, everything can be mapped range 0 to 1, but it has certain goes to extreme negative value or extreme positive value. So there won't be any difference. You can see here -6, and if I have -7, -8, everything is 0 only, right? And in the higher end, when you see maybe 6, 7, 8, like that, when you see everything is mapped to 1. Okay, so when we go to the extreme end, whatever may be the input, okay, there is no difference in the output. Okay, so that's one of the disadvantage, and that is called as vanishing gradient problem. Okay, it's important, you should note down. So what is vanishing gradient problem? Okay, for every high or very low values of x, there is almost no change to the prediction. So that's causing a vanishing gradient problem. So this can result in the network refusing to learn further. That means whatever the 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever it is, the higher values of x, it's always 1. Okay, and for the lower values, extreme ends, it's always predicting either between values only, it is having some gradient problem, and this is one of the problem with the sigmoid activation function, and it's computationally expensive, and it's not zeros and not zeros ended. You can see here, it's what is a center value? 0.5. Above 0.5, between 0.5 and 1, there is one classification. 0.5 and 0, another classification. Okay, so the correct optimization won't happen in this sigmoid activation function, and this vanishing gradient problem will occur, and it is quite expensive to apply this activation function. Okay, so now we have the next, so you can read all these things, everything it is explained here, and what are the advantages we discussed. And other than those points, some more points, like it is differentiable. I told you, mainly for the hidden layers, and if we have the complex data, and when we need to do the back propagation, for all that things, the functions what we select, it should be differentiable and it should be monotonic. So both the conditions are satisfied for sigmoid activation function. So these are the advantages, but it has a main disadvantage, that is the vanishing gradient problem. Okay, so the next activation function is hyperbolic tangent function, activation function. Yeah, tell me.
Ma'am, why this sigmoid function came into topic?
That's a non-linear activation function. It is mainly classified into linear, non-linear. Linear means what is the input on the output will be the same thing. Okay, non-linear activation functions, mainly it is used for complex data. If you want to classify the complex data, I showed you one example, no, one kind of data. So complex data we have where we cannot separate it with the linear functions. In that case, we go with the non-linear activation function. So one of the non-linear activation function is sigmoid.
No, ma'am, because we have only 2 classes.
It may not be
Anything-
two always, no. Sometimes binary classification. Sometimes it may be more classification. Suppose I am predicting your grade. So in that it's not 2 grade. No, you have many 5 or 6 grades. So it need to do many classification, right? It's not binary classification.
But
When
here
we
you told anything above 0.5 is one class and anything below 0.5 is another class.
yeah, that again, so that will be that is actually we have many output nodes. You can see here, I think the previous slide, we will have several output nodes will be there. So for each node we will be applying this activation function. Okay, and each output node, the output that is I will just show the other image. One second. You can look at this image. We have one supervised. Yeah. See here, this activation function, it's not applied at the end. Okay, it actually see the each node y1, y2, y3. Okay, each output function, and it may be giving that.
Ma'am, I'm not able to hear you properly.
Probability. Okay, so maybe the first one, it's. Can you hear me? There is in between some problem, I think, network.
Yeah, before.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now it's fine, ma'am.
Yeah, the activation function, it is applied on E. Okay.
Mom, your voice is breaking.
Yeah. So in this, you can see many nodes. Okay. 1 second, I'll just check. 1 second, I'll shift the place. 1 second. Can you hear me now? Yes or no?
It is clear, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay, fine. I'll just share it once. Yeah, can you see the slides now? Yes or no? Can you see the slides? Are you able to hear? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
you can see
Yes,
the
ma'am.
activation function actually it is applied on each node. So this node, when you consider, you are getting the inputs. Okay, from this node, okay, it will apply the activation function. After applying the activation function, so that will be given as input to the next neuron. So that happens everywhere. So when you reach finally, if we are using the sigmoid, mostly the sigmoid won't be used in the last layer. Okay, usually sigmoid, then this tan H, everything we used in the hidden layers only. For the outer layer, mostly in the deep neural network, we use a softmax as an activation function. So that we will be studying now. Suppose if we are using the activation function sigmoid, what it does for this particular node, it applies the activation function. So it predicts a particular value. Again, for this node, it applies the activation function. Again, this applies the sigmoid activation for function for each output node. Okay. So in this case, what are the values it's predicting? So based on that values, which has the higher probability, based on the corresponding class will be having 0.75, or here you have only 0.2 alone, then y3 is 0.1. So then you will tell that okay, it belongs to the class. You got it? Yes or no? Priyadarshan only asked, no?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
You understood, Priyadarshan? So we have some more activation functions, so we will discuss that. So if you are not able to understand, you tell me. Okay.
Okay,
So I'll
ma'am.
go to the other activation functions. Okay. So sigmoid, it's one of the non-linear activation function. Okay. So the other one is hyperbolic tangent function. So it has a same like sigmoid. Okay. This is also an S-shaped curve, but here you can see here the values. And one more problem with the sigmoid is you can see that always the value will be mapped between 0 and 1. Though you have the negative values. Okay, previous curve, I'll just show once again. In the previous curve, what happens to the negative values? -6 means it is coming as 0, -4 it is 0, -2. Okay, it's not negative values anyway. The finally the values, it will be class the whatever the values, it will be mapped to 0 and 1. Okay, the negative, sometimes why we are giving the negative weights, maybe that particular feature, it may have some negative impact on the output. Okay, so in that case, maybe we will be giving negative, but it finally give the range between 0 and 1. And the values, it's between -1 to 1. Instead of 0 and 1, the hyperbolic tangent, it's giving the value between -1 and 1. Okay, so here the negative values, if we have any negative values will also be considered in the output. Okay, not like sigmoid activation function, but here also it has a, you can hear me, right? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if there is yeah, what I was telling, I forgot. Okay, so here the values, it's it's predicted between -1 and 1. Okay, and here also it has a problem of vanishing gradient problem. So what is vanishing gradient? I told you in the extreme ends. Okay, it won't the learning won't happen. So whatever may be the value in sigmoid, it was mapped to 0 and 1. The same way here also it will be mapped to -1 and +1. So still it suffers from the vanishing gradient problem. Okay, but it has an advantage of it is differentiable and it is monotonic. So all that advantages it has, but it has the disadvantage of vanishing gradient problem. Okay, hope you understood what is vanishing gradient. In the extreme ends, whatever may be the value, you can see here -4, -3 and -5, everything is mapped to -1. But here, and again in the other end, 4, 5, 6, everything is mapped to +1. So the learning is not happening and everything is mapped to the same value. That's called as a vanishing gradient. But it has one advantage compared to the sigmoid is the negative values. If I assign any negative values, that will also be considered. Okay. Okay. So now,
Ma'am.
vanishing gradient. Yeah, tell me.
Ma'am.
Sorry.
Like you told about vanishing gradient problem, no ma'am.
Uh,
Like when we are mapping infinite values between -1 and 1 or 0, between 0 and 1, obviously there will be that vanishing gradient problem.
yeah,
So,
that will be
so why
there. So
can't we
these.
use a tangent function where we can have infinite classes as it stretches to minus infinity to infinity?
Yeah, that's why to solve that problem solely, the other activation functions are we are trying to use. We will look at the application. We will okay how the predictions required, how many layers, all that things we will look at, and we will decide. Okay, if we select this activation functions, are we going to get better classification? So we will experiment all that things. So to avoid the problems of that vanishing gradient only, we are using the next non-linear, that is ReLU. Okay, so ReLU, it can somewhat it can rectify, and it can avoid this vanishing gradient problem. Okay, so maybe whatever you said, maybe many activation functions are there. Okay, but mostly what are the activation functions we are using, that only I am discussing here now. Okay, so these two, that is sigmoid and tanh, both are having this vanishing gradient problem. To resolve that, we are using another activation function called as ReLU. It's rectified linear unit. Okay, so this is the mostly used activation function in the neural network, and it's not having the limitation of vanishing gradient. Okay, and it is applied only within the hidden layer. You can read this. It's applied only within the hidden layers. We won't apply this on the last layer, because last layer it is mostly for the classification. So this ReLU cannot do a better classification. So only for the hidden layers we will use the ReLU. Okay, and this is used to solve the problem of vanishing gradient. So what is this ReLU is? It is having only one function, max of 0, x. If r of x is equal to max of 0, x, that means what is the meaning of that? If the value is less than 0, okay, it will be predicted as 0. If the value is greater than 0, it will predict the same thing, like linear. Previously we discussed identity or linear. So above 0 it is the same linear, but below 0 it is 0. So whatever the negative values it is coming, it will get suppressed to 0. Okay, so 0 means what happens after that? Okay, it won't have enough strength to move, right? 0, when it becomes 0. Okay, so negative values, whatever is coming, it is suppressing there with the value 0, but above 0, whatever it's coming, it is moving as it is. Okay, it's a linear function. So whatever is the input coming to the activation function, so same output will be generated. Okay, so you can see the ReLU diagram. Less than 0, whatever comes, it is 0, and greater than 0, whatever comes, that becomes linear. Okay, so this is the most widely used activation functions in the deep neural network for the hidden layers. Deep neural networks, or the neural networks, okay, if we have more hidden layers, okay, 1 or 2 or 3 or more hidden layers, when we have, for all the hidden layers we will use ReLU, or rectified linear unit, this as the activation function. And this won't be used for the last layer, because the last layer it need to do the classification. ReLU cannot do the proper classification. Okay, so so what is the problem with the ReLU is, if we have any negative values, the negative values get suppressed there. Okay, that is one of the problem with the ReLU. Okay. So now to avoid that problem of the ReLU, okay, we have another activation functions called as leaky ReLU. So in leaky ReLU, what is done is, you can see here, this is ReLU. Leaky ReLU means some of the negative values it will allow to pass to the next neuron. Okay, so some of the negative means it gives it map to a function like ay. So above 0 means it is mapped as it is. That is, if I have the value 1, same output 1, 2 means 2, 3 means 3, like that. But below 0, instead of making it as 0, it is allowing some components to some inputs to pass through that one. That's why it's called as a leaky ReLU. Okay, So it is multiplied with a constant value a into actually this is in the diagram. In this diagram it is shown as y. You can consider it as x-axis and this is y-axis. Instead of that they had mapped like y and f of y. Okay, the x-axis is marked as y and f of y, so don't get confused with this one. So a into y means actually maybe if you are considering it as x-axis means a into x. Okay, so the y value equal to a into x. That means the a is considered as 0.01, the constant value 0.01. So the negative it is getting multiplied with 0.01. That means it won't have much impact. But we are not directly converting to 0. Instead of converting to 0, it is converted to a small value. That's all. Okay. So a is it's a constant value and it is selected as 0.01. And certain cases, instead of keeping always it as a constant, we selected randomized value. So then it's called as randomized ReLU. If a value is decided randomly, it's called as randomized ReLU. Okay, if a value, if it increases, what happens? That negative values, it will have greater impact. Okay, if it then a value, if it is less means we are trying to suppress that negative values. Okay, it's mapping to 0 instead of 0. Less we are considering in a small way. Okay. So yeah, so these are the activation functions. Okay, so we started with linear activation functions. Okay, then non-linear activation functions. Sigmoid it has certain advantages, certain disadvantages. Main disadvantage is vanishing gradient problem. So again there is one more problem is everything, the negative values we were not considering at all. So the next activation function tanh, it was trying to consider the negative values also, because it's trying to map to -1 to 1. But though it considered the negative value, it also had the vanishing gradient problem. To resolve that vanishing gradient problem, another activation function, that is ReLU, we can use it. So ReLU is rectified linear unit. So it suppresses the negative values that will be mapped to 0, and the above 0 it will be mapped to 1. Then again in the ReLU there was a problem that negative values we are totally ignoring it. So to overcome that, leaky ReLU or randomized ReLU we can use it. Okay. So yeah, so why we need to differentiate all that things I told you, mostly in the case of back propagation. Okay, how much the weight need to be updated, for all that things the activation function need to be differentiable. Okay, so another activation function is softmax activation function. This is also used in the deep neural networks, or the neural networks as in the last layer, as an activation function only in the last layer. So mostly when you implement, you can see that maybe you may be using, for the hidden layers you may use ReLU, and for the outer layer you may use softmax as the activation function. So softmax, it can do better classification. Usually it gives a probability of for different classes. So you can see here, this is a softmax activation function. Okay, so this indicate the softmax activation function applied on the input. Okay, so this is a formula, e power zi by summation of this one. So I'll just show with some example. So if this is an output layer, the value finally reaching to the output layer, and you are applying the softmax activation function, means it gives a probability, that is for this particular value. Okay, for this particular class, the first class, the probability is 0.02, next class 0.90, next class 0.05, next class 0.01, next class 0.02. Okay, that way it gives the values, so that it belongs to which class. From the probability we can understand it belongs to which class. So it is telling that, okay, only this much probability that it belongs to class 1. It has 0.90, that much probability that it belongs to class 2. This much probability for class 3. So finally we will understand, okay, this has a higher value, so that it belongs to the class 2. Okay. So what it is finding is, you can see a small explanation is given here. So take each element and we are applying the formula. So e power 1.3, the first one, e power 1.3 by the total sum. E power 1.3 plus e power 5.1 plus e power 2.2. The total sum, with that total sum, we will be dividing. So e power that 1.3 we will apply, divide by total sum. So that will give 0.02. The same way you need to apply for 5.1, e power 5.1 divided by e power 1.3 plus e power 5.1. So what is that value? So each one is divided by the total sum. You will get the probability, the corresponding probability you will be getting. So softmax is one of the widely used activation function in the output layer. Okay, it gives the probability for each class. Okay. To understand, I had given one example. Okay, so this is all the formulas it's given here. So you need to learn this formula, because while solving the problems, okay, apply this particular activation function means you should remember the formula for the activation function. Other than binary sigmoid, we have bipolar sigmoid also. Okay, so these both the formulas you need to learn, and what the derivative, mostly this derivative we will use in the back propagation. In the back propagation, you have several formulas you will be learning. Next class, when you do the problems, you will be learning. So these formulas and all, it is required. So that time when you solve the problem, you can study these formulas. Okay, for all the most of the activation function what we use had given the formula here. Some of the activation function we may not use in the problem while solving the problem. Okay, mostly we may use sigmoid, then binary step function, bipolar step function, okay, then tanh. So these activation functions we may be using while solving the problem. Okay, so that's all. Maybe you can start doing the linear regression implementation, and if you have any doubt in this particular topic, you can ask. Otherwise, everyone can open that Google Colab. Okay, so maybe last semester you would have used Google Colab, right? For you had the subject data science, right? Introduction to data science you had, right? Maybe for that lab you would have done in Colab, I hope. Yes or no? Everyone is familiar.
That was only elective, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, I was thinking it's a core course. Okay, maybe if you have any other, maybe Spider or Anaconda, any other platform if you are using for Python program, did you learn Python or you didn't start learning Python? Okay, please raise a hand if you know Python very well. Or okay, I think we had once asked. So that time I think most of you had selected the option. You know Python, maybe in the beginners level or maybe the intermediate level, like that you had selected, I think. Okay, so maybe linear regression, how you implement the linear regression is the same way how you learn the formula. That is, you should assign some x values and you should assign some y values, and you should, whatever the formulas you learned, how to fit that line on that data sample. So randomly you can assign some x values and y values, and you can try to do the coding. Okay, so maybe sometime you try to code, then if not getting, I can explain that. Since it's the first lab, I'll explain that. But anyway, from your side, first you try, then I will explain it. Okay, so you can use any platform. It's not compulsory that you should use Google Colab or anything. Okay, any platform you can use. And how to take Google Colab, whether everyone knows or not, whether I should show how to take Google Colab? Tell me, same way I can do it. Everyone has Gmail account, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Whether I should show that how to, if suppose you hadn't taken that Google Colab means, and you don't have any platform to do the Python program, then please raise a hand so that I can show that how to use Google Colab. If you know how to use Google Colab, there you can type the program for linear regression. Okay, so maybe next class we will do the other things, LD and all. Today only linear regression, maybe we'll try to do it. So if you have Google Colab, please open it. I think I'll stop recording.
Ma'am, can you once show how the Google Colab works?